Hey loves, video overload this week. My sister wanted me to make candied yams, and so you know I'm extra. So I put pecans and marshmallows in my candied yams just to spruce it up a little bit. So if you want to make some extra southern candied yams with pecans and marshmallows that look a little something like keep watching and I'll show you how. All right, so let's get started. The first thing you'll need is 3 huge sweet potatoes or yams. You'll need to wash them. You'll need to peel them. And you'll need to dice it. Now you'll see a lot of people put them into circles. I like to put them in bite-sized pieces so that people can have them forked. So I just cut them in 4s once you make them into 4. But however you cut them is your business. Now, if you, of course you can't see the sweet potatoes on the inside, but the more orange they are, the better. All right, you'll also need 1 cup of light brown sugar, a 1/3 cup of white granulated sugar, just a touch of oil. I'll show you why. The secret ingredient is orange juice. Make sure you get pulp free. Your seasonings is just ground cinnamon and nutmeg. That's it. You'll need unsalted butter. You'll need marshmallows. Now, you need miniature marshmallows. The store is completely sold out. I had to get the fat ones, so just cut them in 4. Now, I suggest if you can't find many marshmallows at one store, try to find it at another store because it's very sticky to work with. However, if you only can find the big ones, just make it work as best you can. And last but not least is chopped pecans. Also, what works really good in this recipe is walnuts. So whatever your preference is. All right, so those are the things that you'll need. Not too many ingredients and super cheap. Let's get started. Very, very important, y'all. When you're cooking sweet potatoes, yams, regular potatoes, it's important for you to put the potatoes in your pot, cold water, and it has to be barely covering the potatoes. I'll show y'all what I mean. Has to be cold water, and then you bring it to a boil. Don't put your potatoes in hot water, and then don't boil your water, then add your potatoes. All right, so it needs to be just barely covering your potatoes. Then I'm going to add some salt because I know this is a sweet dish, but you have to have a little salt. And then I'm going to bring that to a boil. Bait for candied yams is, should you just put the raw potatoes in the oven, cover it in syrup, and bake it? Or should you boil it and toss it in the syrup? I think it's best if you boil it, toss it in syrup, and then just bake it for 4 to 5 minutes for the marshmallows. That's your preference, but if you try this way, you'll love it. So while the potatoes are boiling or starting to boil, we're going to work on our syrup. So I'm going to show you guys a really good trick. So I'm going to put just a little bit of oil in the pan, and I'm going to add my pecans. Now, if you don't like pecans, walnuts, or nuts period, and you don't want to put that in your candy yam, you can omit this step. But if you do want to try it with nuts, I suggest that you toast them for 3 to 4 minutes before you start on your syrup. Now that your pecans have been toasting for about 3 minutes, you're going to go ahead and add the full stick of unsalted butter. Make sure it is unsalted, okay? It smells so good, y'all. So once your butter is completely melted, we're going to add our sugars. Make sure that 1 cup of brown sugar is packed so you know it's the right measurements. Some people like dark brown sugar in their candy yams. I like light brown sugar. So that is 1 whole cup of light brown sugar and then 1/3 cup of white sugar. I'm going to go ahead and combine that with my butter. All right, this is looking good. So now that I've combined my sugars, I'm going to go ahead and add 1 full cup of OJ. Now sometimes it gets a little too thick and you'll need to add a little bit more OJ, but usually 1 cup is good. This is what you want to see once you combine the OJ. And last but not least, I'm going to add my seasonings. Now with nutmeg, I don't measure, so I can't tell you guys how much I put in there. I usually do about 4 shakes. So 1, oh, that came out a lot. Okay, so that much nutmeg. You can put more or less according to your taste, but make sure that you put it in because it makes a difference in your dish. Now with the cinnamon, I will measure for you guys. It's usually around a tablespoon, so I will measure that for you guys so y'all can see how much cinnamon. I didn't say tablespoon earlier, I meant to say teaspoon. So that's 1 teaspoon, and then I'm gonna add 1 more. There's the second one. Now you're gonna combine that all together on low heat. I said put it on low because you don't want it to be a syrup yet until your potatoes get in. So this is what it looks like currently. I'm gonna keep stirring this around and just keep stirring and mixing until your potatoes are fork tender. They're gonna bake a little bit, So you wanna get them just perfectly fork tender, not too mushy and not too hard. All right, loves, my sweet potatoes, yams are fork tender, so I'm gonna go ahead and drain those babies. Do not rinse these potatoes. Thank you. Dump all of that in that wannabe syrup. After we mix it around for a little bit, it will become sticky like a syrup. Bump that syrup up to medium because now you're going to mix in those potatoes until they get a little sticky, syrupy like texture. All right, once it's been cooking for about 5 minutes, you're going to want to turn it up all the way on high heat so that your syrup can become really, really sticky. You want to catch these before they get mushy, so mine are at a point where I'm going to go ahead and transfer my potatoes to a baking dish. Now you're going to want to coat the baking dish a little bit, and you're going to want to reserve about a half a cup of this liquid. Got my yams in a pan, and this is what I'm going to line all of my marshmallows on top. Yeah, because this dish is so sweet, I don't cover it in marshmallows like some people do. I just kind of sporadically put them on. Now, you know that little syrup I told you to reserve? You're going to lightly put that on top of your marshmallows. Yep, that's right, all on top. Put it in an oven of 350 for about 5 to 8 minutes. You'll need to check it after 5 minutes. It could take up to 8. The marshmallows will need to be completely melted down, and it'll need to be bubbling. All right, when it's bubbling, it is done. Just let that sit at least 30 minutes before. All right, loves, I just transferred mine into a smaller baking dish. Some people love a lot of syrup. Some people like no syrup, and some people like medium. Me, I like a medium amount of syrup. So I took about half of the syrup and baked it for like 2 more minutes just to get the marshmallows really, really melty. And there you have it. Those are the best candied pecan marshmallow yams that you will eat this holiday season. Enjoy.